everyone, and welcome back to Gravely Amusing, the only horror history podcast that believes in UFOs, astral projections, mental telepathy, ESP, clairvoyance, spirit photography, telekinetic movement, full trance mediums, the Loch Ness Monster, and the theory of Atlantis. I'm your host, Bryan Peters, and here today I'm joined by Green Lantern and my high school sweetheart, Jerae Keymaster Finch.
Hey, I'm here. And
Hey,
if
Finch!
if
Finch is here.
there's a steady paycheck, I believe in anything.
I was hoping you'd say that. And also joined by the last son of the Krypton Report, Tyler Proton Pack Patrick.
Who does your taxes?
That's also a great line. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good
Who
one.
does your taxes? I was like,
Boys, I'm so glad you're here. I really am. Gravely Amusing dropped 2 epic episodes already on the subject of the Ghostbusters. Today we're going to drop a third and close out the trilogy, if you will, as we talk about Frozen Empire and some thoughts on some other things. So, and we're gonna get some debates at the end. I hope that some of you guys disagree on some of the things I'm just gonna throw at you. I hope so, because then controversy creates awesome podcasts.
it does.
It's
No,
gonna
it
be fun.
doesn't. No, it doesn't. Okay.
Hey,
I
shut
mean,
up.
sometimes
Yes, it
sometimes-
does.
you just don't end up talking to each other. You're like, you know what? And you walk off, or you curl into a ball and cry.
Well, he lives on the West Coast. Like I can't go to his house and slap him or whatever. He can just
I mean, you
bug
could.
off.
It'll be it'll definitely be delayed for a few days. But
West
I
Coast,
could-
baby.
I could.
Yeah.
What's that? All right. So in the past, I've left many listeners waiting ever so patiently for the new movie review as we talk about the build up to the new movie. Yeah, we're not going to do that today because we already did it in the last 2 episodes. We're already good. So we're going to get right to it today. So, and we're going to get to it right after we learn how and when these guys got a ghost to visit them in the middle of the night, just like Ray, and when they lost their Ghostbuster virginity in a segment I like to call Losing Your Virginity. So this is a segment where we discuss how we first introduced to Ghostbusters. So we know how Steve was introduced. We know how I was introduced. So I wanted to hear how you guys got introduced to Ghostbusters. So Tyler, my Ray Stance, how did you come to know Ghostbusters?
well, it's kind of one of those combinations of like being aware of the cartoon, and my dad had the first Ghostbusters on. You ready for this? Betamax. Betamax.
Nice.
Gosh, we're old.
So I don't remember which one I have the first introduction with. I do know that I did have some of the toys. I had the Proton Pack because I've said this before. We lived right by the military base. And one thing that's great about military bases and people who are on base is when families have to move, a lot of times the parents will just drop off their toys at Goodwill. So a lot of cool toys that I found, we'd always hit the Goodwill on base. So like I had Castle Grayskull, the Thunder Tank, some Thundercats and stuff, all because we found them at Goodwill. So I dropped in the thing. I had this Proton Pack toy. My friend had the Trap toy, but I had a lunchbox, like the old plastic ones, that just had a thermos in it, of the real Ghostbusters we got from a yard sale. But I don't really remember. I don't have strong memories of the cartoon until later, because when Extreme Ghostbusters came out, that was like when I had a resurgence of like I watched that show, and then that's when I really watched my dad's video copy and like had the first one. And then just side note, just about how this movie years later, like I saw it, but then I was that's in my early, I think I was 23 we were at the recording studio to record, and they had like some movies while we were taking turns recording. And it was like, what do we want to watch? And I was like, oh, we'll just watch Ghostbusters. And that's when I like really realized that every line of the dialogue from any character in that movie is pretty much comedy gold. Like just
Sure
sitting
is.
back and watching it, like, and really paying attention to delivery, what exactly said. And of course, now I'm catching more of that adult humor because I hadn't watched it in my more adult years. Um, I remember seeing the second one because my cousin had the proton pack toy with the, for the slime, but I don't really remember when I finally kind of like it was one of those movies like you saw like on TV a lot, and I remember always watching it like on TBS or something. And then when years later when I bought them, I sat down and watched them both, and kind of was like because certain things from the second one kind of filtered into my mind of in the first one, but they weren't there. So, but that's kind of my quick history of like where Ghostbusters stuff comes from.
Where you lost your Ghostbusters virginity.
Yep. But what can I say? Bustin' makes me feel good.
There it is.
And I think I told Bryan that story. Maybe not. I can't. I don't know. I'll tell you guys later. All right, Finch's turn.
When you first busted a ghost? What?
Yeah,
Or when you first
but
busted
When a ghost made you bust?
hey, if I had to like edit one part out of the first Ghostbusters movie, it would be that dream sequence
I said the same thing.
because it's so odd, and I can see where it's funny, but like that was the one scene I was most worried about when I watched Ghostbusters recently with my kids, was just kind of explaining like that scene, like what that kind of like trying to find a way. And I was like, yeah, he's just having a bad dream that they're attacking him while he's sleeping. Oh, okay, Daddy.
Oh, he got attacked, all right. So Finch, how'd you lose your virginity?
Oh man, usually I have a pretty good memory. I remember my dad watching Ghostbusters. I don't think he had it taped or anything. I think it was on TV. And I remember always catching the end of the movie. So like not fully seeing the movie until a little bit later. So I would like always only catch the ends when she's in the shiny gown and the dogs are there. And I always remember that's why I always thought Rick Moranis was a Ghostbuster for the longest time because he was like part of the movie. And then remember like mixing up the second one and the first one together in my mind. And then I remember as I got a little bit older, I finally like watched them both individually. I'm like, oh, okay, so Rick Moranis wasn't a Ghostbuster until the second movie. So okay, yeah, yeah. So and yes, I had toys too. I had the Kenner guys. I believe is Egon from the real Ghostbusters. Um, with the hair, like the squiggly hair, and
Yeah.
the back, and his like stance was like this, like he's holding the proton pack, like yeah. And then I believe I had some Burger King kids toys from there too. So, yeah, that's my virginity of Ghostbusters.
So is Egon. Egon got your Ghostbuster virginity. Nice. I think um I think we all miss Ecto Cooler. I just want to give that a little shout out.
Yeah,
I think I drank so much when they brought it back in 2016 that it made me sick to my stomach because like we bought cases of it on Amazon and I was just like down in it. It was like I feel like that lasted longer than like the Ghostbusters did. Like they were already off TV, but Ecto Cooler was still there.
I remember drinking the little high C ecto coolers at church. Like
Yeah.
they gave us
Nice.
they in
Just
Sunday
throw in.
in Sunday school they gave us the little high C ecto coolers and like some shortbread cookies, Lorna Doone cookies, and that was like a little snack we got at Sunday school, and I was like, yeah. So
I like the idea of Ghostbusters in Sunday school. Like that's a whole conversation we could have. Like that's awesome.
Well, you're asking children about their beliefs, you know. Like, if you want them to believe in the transfiguration, so but that might be something we talk about later. Anyway, moving on. So, so it's time for the main event, the main chunk of the podcast, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. So let's talk non-spoilers first here, just briefly. So Finch, non-spoilers. Is this movie good?
Yeah, if you like nostalgia, yeah, definitely. If you're like, no, I want to see what they do for the future, still definitely. I like this movie, man. I know a lot of the reviews I've been seeing, people are saying it starts off really slow and boring at the beginning. I was pretty much intrigued most of the way. There were a few nitpicks I have, but for the most part, I think they did a good job. I still wish we had Reitman, his son, directing it instead, maybe.
Yep,
But
we're gonna get into
uh,
that big time.
yeah, but I think what they had to work with and what they did, and visually it looked stunning. Um, One of the things I put in my notes was that I liked the appearance of the villain, or the big bad ghost. Like he looked.
Garaka.
I couldn't take my daughter to see this one because she doesn't like scary movies, or things that she deems scary movies. Um, so
How old's your daughter?
9.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, and at one point in the movie, I leaned over to my wife and I said, "Hey, I'm glad Izzy didn't come because she would have been closing her eyes, and I would have paid for her to sit like this through the whole movie, and I would have been pissed." So yeah,
So, Garaka, probably the father of Baraka. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, Tyler, non spoiler. What are your initial thoughts of this film?
Well, I'm gonna jump on what Fish was ending with. I did take my 9-year-old and my soon-to-be 7-year-old, and it was fun because there was a couple parts I think my 9-year-old was more scared and kind of worried, and like he was kind of covering his eyes, but he was more like he doesn't like loud sounds, so he was more covering his ears for the jump scares instead of like watching. But I think it was that nice kind of blend where they were scared, but then like they were having fun and laughing, like because I mean we had watched, like I said, the first one recently in a theater. We had watched Afterlife, a year ago, so we were in the process of rewatching that before we saw Frozen Empire. So my kids weren't completely unaware of what to expect. So do I like this movie? Yes. Do I think it's good? Yes. Do I want to watch it again? Yes, because I would like to be able to watch it again and kind of pay attention to some things. Um, because like I said, it was a kind of a fun experience with the kids, just them like in like kind of things. But sometimes it was a little distracting. Um, and at one point, Solomon he tried to hold it as long as he could, but he had to go, so we had to run out to the bathroom. But he was trying because like he's got to the point where he'll say, "All right, I think we're in the second act now," or "That ended the first act," or
Just
we're in
like
the
his
third
daddy.
act. Yeah. So he pays attention. So like he was trying to hold it and everything, um but yeah, I just like Finch was saying, like I've read some reviews where I just feel like I don't know what people are expecting at times, other than a good time and just like back in this world and with these characters. And I think there's elements, and we'll talk about that as we go, um, from like a behind the scenes perspective, as far as creative voice, like you were talking about with Jason Reitman. And I think that plays into things a little bit. If someone but was expecting like afterlife again, you know. Um, but yeah, that's my shortness.
It works. Um, my wife's initial thoughts. When my wife my wife watched with me, but she had a heck of a week, so she kind of dozed for a little bit. But my wife said that it wasn't as good as Afterlife. Um, she felt Afterlife felt a little bit more personal, and this felt a little disconnected, if you will. Um, Yeah, she felt it like there was definitely a difference in directing, but she doesn't know all the directing stuff like we do. But she said something was a little off is what she felt. For me, I agree. I think that Afterlife was better, and I wanted to love the movie. I liked it. I wanted to love it. I just think that some things were off. Is it is still a decent Ghostbuster movie. There's a lot that happens in it that is pretty darn good, and there's some things in it that had me scratching my head. Uh,
Mm.
overall, overall, I think that it's a decent entry. And now we're going to get into the spoiler reviews, so you can understand what the heck I'm talking about. so,
Can we take a moment, Bry, and as we get into spoilers, but like talk about Afterlife just for a moment because I think it
yeah,
was such a big.
why don't you get into it, buddy?
I
Go
just
ahead.
I think what's pointing out is there's tons of videos about the development hell of ever getting a Ghostbusters 3. The script that got closest was titled like Ghostbusters in Hell. And I think you look at how long between Ghostbusters 2 and Afterlife, but you can't say anything without acknowledging that Afterlife is a Jason Reitman film. And I think that's very important because as much as Ivan Reitman was a very strong comedy director and just a good director all around, Jason has his own style of directing, and he's known more for dramedies. And Thank You for Smoking, I loved that movie the first time I saw it. Um, what's his face? Aaron Eckhart in that movie, amazing. Have you guys seen it?
I have not.
What is it? Thank you for smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was Jason Reitman's first film, and it's a great film. And then you had was Up in the Air, um, young adult, these very kind of mature maturation style films. So I think that you have to look at Afterlife that it's a Jason Reitman film as well. It's a Ghostbuster film, but it's also the whole film is about passing the torch and the next generation and a reintroduction to this world. But it's not just about that on screen as it is behind the scenes with, from father to son. And I think, Reitman approached the Afterlife with a different kind of care and a respect to everyone and bringing up this film that I think it took the subject matter of what's comedy and kind of elevated a little bit more in a different style of filmmaking. Um, and I think that this film, not that it's a step back, but it's a different style. It's kind of like I've always said like the Blade movies, right? It's a trilogy, but each one pops differently because you have a very different style of filmmaker in those films. And the first film is Stephen Norrington, but then you have Del Toro as the second director, and it just completely pops and kind of changes the world and the tone. And I feel like Frozen Empire does something similar. Like it's not like we're taking a step back, but it tonally feels like it's more in line with what could have been a Ghostbusters 3. Whereas Afterlife, I think, is just kind of this. It's a different approach to filmmaking. So
Well, um, so as Steve and I covered in last in part 2 of the podcast in the history of Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters the video game was pretty much Ghostbusters 3. Um,
yeah,
through and through what they kind of really wanted to do. And then that came out in 2009, and I think in 2014 with the death of Harold, they weren't sure what to do. They wanted to kind of continue Ghostbusters and stuff, but that's part of what led them to kind of go in the female direction and kind of try to test the franchise a little bit. But Afterlife is without a doubt a Jason project for sure. And with Frozen Empire, Jason was directing it, and then he dropped out in December 2022,
Yeah.
and Ivan died in February 2022. So for like 8 months, he's directing it, and I'm not totally sure why he dropped out from directing it.
Yeah.
So like,
Like
because his dad died, and then we got like 10 months that you're working on this movie.
maybe he just couldn't do it. Like he couldn't be there as the director. Like because he directed Afterlife, but like his dad was there and as a producer, and his dad was there with him, and kind of thing. And he might have just not been able to do it.
I don't know. It's just I could understand if it was maybe like April, 2 months after his dad passed and something like that. But like maybe it was in the promotion, maybe something.
And they were still in pre-production, so like it wasn't like they were filming. It was like they hadn't started shooting. I mean, they didn't start shooting until even you think about December, they hadn't started shooting it that year. They were still finalizing the cast and the schedule. So it might have just been one of those things like I just can't do this.
Yeah, it feels like maybe it's just like being around that those characters, that environment, everything has such a strong connection to him and his dad. Maybe it's just really hard for him to do it. So I don't know. I will say Afterlife has more heart, I think, than this movie.
Agreed.
So
Yeah,
And
agreed.
I think, this will probably come up a lot, but I think that the problem with this movie is you have too many characters to juggle.
Yep, definitely something I
Because
wanted. Yep.
Afterlife was about moving on the next generation and these new people and the families, the growth. Frozen Empire is about trying to get the new team with the old team and giving everyone some significant time. That I think you try to give these characters story, but then a lot of them don't get anything. So I think there's just too much here, story wise, if you want to with the characters.
see, I get that, and that is one of my cons of the movie since we are moving into spoilers. Um, but that's also like a pro for me also because I loved seeing the old crew interact
Yeah,
with the new crew. So it's like a pro and a con for me. So
I think with that, from a writing point of view, I would try to then put the characters together more, but like not try to do a storyline with characters. Like you want to set up arcs with your characters, and we'll talk about individuals, but I just think some of it suffered. Like you kind of started to set something up, but never really went anywhere with it.
Well, let's get into like the plot of the movie and what happens and make our comments as we go. Sound good?
Word.
Okay, so this takes place 2 years after Afterlife, supposedly. Story wise,
Aha. Point of order.
what's that?
I know where he's going
You're
with
right.
this.
You're right. It does take, they say 2 years, but it's 3 years because Trevor's 18 and Phoebe's 15. And having watched Afterlife, the rest of it today, they clearly say that he is 15 and she is 12 in Afterlife.
It's 3 years. You're right.
I knew he was going to jump
But
over. I knew.
but in the movie, I'm pretty sure they say it's only been 2 years.
Yeah, they definitely say it's only been 2 years, but you're right.
Yeah.
It is three. You're totally right.
Hey, I pay attention to ages. That was part of my whole breakdown issue with Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Like, was the fact that the first film took place at this age, and then we're still, but yeah, that's my thing.
So the movie starts out actually 120 years ago in 1904, and we see the Hook and Ladder building, and we see firemen actually being in that building, and they rush out for a call, an emergency call, and they respond to a call at a Manhattan spiritual hobbyists uh, party, and they find a room that's full of archaeological hobbyists frozen to death, while a spectral chant plays from a phonograph. In the corner of the room, the only survivor is a woman in an ancient suit of armor clutching a bronze orb. So interesting open. It was I I thought that they're like, okay, so are we getting something that's like, these are the original Ghostbusters? Are we getting something that is like 84 established that the Ghostbusters first started, but when this movie started, I thought that they were going into something that was like there were Ghostbusters of the past, and
Mm.
we're going to tell a story of in the past there was an evil, and there was a group of people that band together to fight this evil, and we've now inherited, as the modern day Ghostbusters, we've inherited this new evil, and we were going to get kind of a legacy thing, because Afterlife was very much like about legacy and passing the torch and all that. So I thought that they were continuing somewhat of the story of passing a legacy, and we were going to get kind of like a movie where we get in 1904 and then we go to the modern day and kind of getting something like that. And that's why there was this oversaturation of the cast. That's what I thought we were going to get, but it didn't go that way. So like what did you guys think about these old hobbyists kind of and their ghost stuff?
I just thought about, in the 1800s that spiritualism was really big, especially with the upper class societies, the occultism with seances and stuff like that. I thought we were gonna bust in with the firemen, and they were actually gonna be like conjuring the entity kind of thing, and like um somehow someone in the membership was going to catch it or whatever. I thought that maybe they were worshipers, but it just ended up being they just opened the thing on accident, I guess. I kind of want to know like who made the record, but whatever. If they made it there, like was it them recording themselves chanting? Like I thought we would have seen a little bit more of the history kind of thing there, or like we would have cut back later to that. Um, but yeah,
Finch,
I
what did
thought it
you
was
think about this opening thing?
I thought they were just regular ass firemen. It's like so, but then they
Oh,
get
they
there and
were.
they're
They
like,
were.
yeah, and then they get there and they're like, oh wait, what the heck is going on here? One thing I will say is you mentioned that Afterlife was very much a legacy. This movie did feature some legacy stuff though, but we'll get into it with
Oh,
when
yeah,
we
yeah,
talk.
there definitely was. There was.
But
For sure.
yeah. So I mean, I thought it was everything we saw in the trailers at that beginning part, basically. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
but I did learn something that I didn't know, and I don't think you touched on it in your history of Ghostbusters stuff. But Dan Aykroyd's family was really into like seances and like
yeah, the occult.
the occult and stuff, and that's why he was driven to write the movie or start. You touched on some of it because I was listening to your episode a couple days ago, but I just learned that today. Actually, I was like, oh, like okay, so
I
A
could have
lot of the
dwelled a little bit
references,
more into it. But yeah, I mentioned it.
a lot of his references are like legit
Hmm.
references and things, and like the folklore is there, and so yeah, it would make sense why he would write this.
Well, like, yeah, like his great grandfather would like give reviews of people that would like that were traveling through that were like mediums and stuff. Yep, yep, you're totally right, Finch. Um, so the movie fast forwards a little bit, just a little bit, maybe 100 some years, and we're downtown New York. Well, maybe not downtown, but we're in New York, and present day, and Callie, the mom.
I would say like Callie.
Yeah, the mom is in Octo One with her kids and her boyfriend Garrett Gruberson. What a great name! and her children, Trevor and Phoebe, have taken up residence, with them in the firehouse as a new Ghostbusters team. So, and they're bankrolled by Winston, our man. So, chase through the streets this sewer dragon from Hell's Kitchen, and they're ghostbusting it. And basically, what happens, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, what happens is they cause a lot of damage in the process. Gary's not a very good driver for Ecto 1, and it caused a lot of damage. And basically, Phoebe is only 15 years old, and the mayor of New York is now Walter Peck. Flashback to the first movie. And Walter absolutely hates the Ghostbusters. If you guys don't remember who Walter Peck is, he was basically the EPA guy that shut down the containment unit 40 years ago in 84. And
He has no
um,
dick.
he has no dick. And
I laughed so hard at the end scene, to jump ahead, when it's the mayor and you just hear someone in the crowd go, "Dickless!" Like, I lost it so hard. And then Solomon's like, asked me why, and I explained it to him. He started laughing and giggling. Like, it was so funny.
I love it. I love it. So Peck hates the Ghostbusters and basically said, Phoebe's 15. She's a minor. And you're going to want to exploit this child labor. Yeah, well, I will shut you down. So basically, Callie goes to Phoebe and says, "Hey, we can't have you do any Ghostbuster stuff until you're a legal adult." And her brother Trevor likes to rub it in her face. I'm 18. I'm 18. And and basically she has to be sidelines.
Okay,
And
quick question.
yeah,
Did they specifically state what Paul Rudd's relationship was to?
He's still
no,
He's still just a
we just know
boyfriend,
there's
still the
fiance.
boyfriend. He's still the
What is-
boyfriend.
I'm pretty sure, because I it's one of those lines, I bet somewhere, that there's something, and it got cut. They're like, they're still together. That's all that matters. But yeah, there's no direct dialogue.
Well, he's her
Even and
teacher.
Yeah, dang it, man.
Test
He's
teacher.
like,
Yep.
I said that because that's one of those arcs, I feel like, that was set up, that I wonder if there's deleted footage that really helps flesh this out with the whole relationship. Um, you know, and I was if I could watch it again, I'd pay more attention for little clues. Because of where the movie ends and Phoebe's little arc with him in it. I kind of wondered if, like, maybe there had been, like, they had gotten married or something. But there is a line where he's like, we're the Spanglers. You guys don't want to be Grubersons. Like, no. So I don't know.
Well, that
So,
was one of my nitpicks, and the other one was the Phoebe herself, like, because the mayor is yelling at them like, "Oh, she's only 15," like, and then he's like, "Oh, we don't pay her," stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, it's summertime though. Like, can't you be like, one, like, it's a family-owned business, which people work for their families for free all the time,
Yeah.
and two, even if you wanted to just argue with the mayor and say like, "Oh, it's a summer internship. It's free. She can work." So that was like a nitpick that I had. So since we're already in the spoiler territory, that's one of my.
I'm so with you on
Finch is
that.
thinking logical. He's just thinking logical of how you'd get around it as a
Oh, Finch is.
workaround.
Like, why didn't they call? Okay, like that moment. Oh, she's not on the payroll. That moment is, yo, Winston. I need you to put her on the payroll and us on the payroll too, because we're poor and maybe we want to get married. That could like the so because I'm watching it with the caption device because I'm deaf, so I'm getting dialogue that you guys probably didn't get unless you got a caption device. But so they are not married, they're not engaged, Callie and Gruberson, and it it made me feel like, especially near the end of the movie, I thought that he was gonna propose in this movie, and he doesn't. And the whole conflict is with Gary kind of in this movie is, what is my place with this family? What is my place with his kids? Like, what can I do? What can I do? I've been dating mom a long time. So I thought that, and we'll get to in a second. Once you get later in the movie, I really thought that Gary, like the movie was going to end with Gary proposing
Mhm.
and or something
Mhm.
like that, and we didn't get that, and that disappointed me because I felt that that would be in the next growth and logical step, and we didn't get that, and it's just I feel it's a missed opportunity because the whole story that Gary, of Gary and Callie is, or mostly Gary is, what is my place?
I mean, yes,
So
to skip to the end, Phoebe turns and calls him dad at the end.
exactly.
It kind of felt out of place because there was never like Trevor wasn't calling him dad. There was no really big discussion on that. I feel like, okay, with everything you're saying, I agree with you. I feel like we could have cut out Phoebe's ghost friend, that
Absolutely. Well,
subplot,
absolutely. We're gonna get to that.
and spent that story time developing this.
Absolutely, because
Well,
because
exactly.
Agreed.
because right there when Peck like says she can't be part of the Ghostbuster, like that's where it should have been. That call should have happened, and threw away this whole subplot that she can't be a part of it. It should have been the call to Winston that, or it should have been some more of a side plot that, hey, we're doing this for free, so and we want to get married and we want to have like our family, and we can't afford, we're not getting paid from you, and Phoebe can't be a Ghostbuster unless she's on the payroll. Like there should have been some type of thing going on there.
This
Eternal struggle
the
with
time
Winston.
this was my first part where I thought we might see Rick Moranis.
Yes, accounting.
That he comes in either that or as an attorney that works for Winston.
Missed
Okay.
opportunity.
So this was like I told you, there's a couple places that I felt like he could have popped up. This was the first time I'm like, oh, this would be just a great, like, it could have been just a one scene thing. He pops in and they're like, we don't need you, Mr. Tully. Boom. Done.
That's all we need.
Could have been a cameo, like a Zoom call cameo. Boom. That's all you needed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Could have been like, we have our attorney. Boom. Um,
Such
so
a missed opportunity.
My other thing was though that why did Paul Rudd jump to her defense against the mayor and not her own mother? Like what the heck, man?
I think it helps develop that story what Bryan was just talking about. Like it shows that he has he cares about these kids more. He wants to protect them. He jumped first, but then he didn't, like, he jumped without knowing if he should have jumped. And I think that was that would be part of it. Like, you're waiting for your mom, but like he jumped in, and it shows his desire to be dad or to be, because why else would he call, like, who are you to these people? Are you her parent? And it, like, it was setting up that arc and that story that we didn't get.
And we could have got a side story where we could have got side tension too between Trevor and Gary, of Trevor being like, you've been with my mom for 3 years now. Are you going to marry her? Like, what the heck? And you have no relationship with me whatsoever. And you're all about
Nobody
Phoebe
has a
and
relationship
science.
with Trevor.
What's that?
Nobody has a relationship with Trevor.
Except Slimer.
No, not even,
Yeah.
not even Lucky. Like it's not even really there anymore. But let's move on here. So yeah, Pex has no dick. Looking at my notes here. So yeah, so Gary's trying to support Callie, as we said, and he doesn't know his role, yada yada yada. So when she's when she's kicked off the team, Phoebe starts wandering around the city, and she goes to a park and she starts playing chess. The chess pieces start to move, and this is where I was like, wait, Harold went off to the afterlife, hence the name of the movie. So what the heck's this about? And then we meet who is called Melody. And Melody is a supposedly, even though she looks so much older, like early 20s, a 16-year-old girl ghost who died in a fire with her family and wants to reunite with her family in the afterlife, but she doesn't really know how. She doesn't know how to pass on. This sub story, I think, was stupid. I hated it. I didn't like it. I am not against the possibility of people of there being ghost characters and them interacting with them and kind of having like a friendship with them. But I'm with you guys. I feel that the story that really should have been developed is the Spangler story of how we interacting with Gary. Trevor is an adult now. How are we handling that? Why is Trevor still living with them? Is Trevor going to have his own life? Is he going to have a
Yeah.
life with Lucky? Is what's their relationship? Like, it's this movie. If there's one fault in this movie, period, it's there's too many characters and we don't know what the heck to do. We don't know what
I
story
would
we want to tell.
see the thing with Jenny and I were talking about this afterwards is what are the rules for ghosts? Like if you're going to have a ghost
They're
character
not
like this,
established.
that
You're right.
we should talk about like why like my head canon. I had to create my own head canon. Okay. But like you have like these ghosts that look animalistic and look twisted
Thank you. Thank you for saying
and
that.
the,
Yeah.
and so my head canon that G and I came with is the longer you're a spirit and the emotion behind it starts to twist and turn you because you need to move on, but you haven't moved on yet.
Ooh.
Now,
Because
one thing on that though, if you're kind of, they do kind of touch on that a little bit in this one, where he has like the CD player, and it's
yeah,
like certain inanimate objects can just be
you basically kind of like possessed. Yeah.
so.
And I was like, if you're going to bring in a character that's a ghost, let's talk about, and like, if all of a sudden Phoebe talks about what would it be like to be a ghost, and we introduce that thought process, let's talk about the cycle of like the soul or whatever. Because you could have, if you wanted to make Phoebe a ghost, you could have had some tension or something. They're like, you're only a ghost for so long before you start to break down. Because like if you go back, the last film, we kind of stalled. We saw Egon die. We saw him starting to move with animated objects, but he couldn't form a physical presence. We saw how he kept moving around, moving objects. Then eventually he was able to manifest himself in a physical, uh, embodiment. I feel like if they were able to, the next would have been like The Voice, but because of limits of actually not having Harold, and I think it was more respectful not having him talk.
Way
I think
respectful. Yeah.
would have been like the next step of him coming to a form.
What is
So
it
we've
called?
introduced, yeah,
What's the word, Brian? Come on, transmogrification.
yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, so we in the previous film we kind of started, we saw kind of the process. So if you were going to introduce a full on ghost character who'd been this, let's continue that idea because you could have made tension out of her not being in her body as a ghost. Oh, now she's really a ghost. Her body could have been possessed by the possessor. If you wanted to go that route for a little bit, or just the fact that now she is a ghost and she only has so much time because she's a fully formed ghost before she might start to lose herself and start to become more monstrous. If you wanted to go that route, but yeah, the whole subs, I feel like any story beat with her other than kind of the betraying, you can find a way around that. Like I mean, it's easy. Like she needs a friend. She interacts more with podcast. You cultivate more of that friendship, or you cultivate more with her and Lucky, maybe even to give Lucky something to, if you want to do some of that friendship dialogue. Her not, attacking her at first in the diner really doesn't serve a point. There wasn't any point about
Nope. And she didn't even
conversation about
apologize and say, hey,
catching ghosts that aren't bad. You know what I'm saying? There was no kind of conversation like that. Like, oh, she's a good ghost, I'm not going to capture her. Like that was never a plot point. So, and then her having the match at the end, very easily, something simple. We didn't need an arc for her. Like we really didn't. We needed an arc for other characters. Finding a match could have been something great. Lewis Tully could have shown up and struck a match, and been in the back, and that's his big hero moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
that would have been that's another one of my things.
Or Dana Barrett.
So yeah, okay, Dana. Did you guys realize that Dana and Peter were married in Afterlife?
Yep.
Like it's one of those things like I knew, but I forgot, and then I read into
Post
it.
credits
at the post credits when she's holding up
she's
the
wearing a
cards.
ring.
They're both wearing
wearing
matching wedding
rings. Yeah.
rings.
I did not notice that. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Because I knew they had that scene, but then like I was watching today, like, oh, they did get married, but so she was absent from this movie, which is that could have been a moment for her too, just because. But there was not even any dialogue about her, so that's another thing that makes me mad. Like if someone's absent, let's throw them a line of dialogue. But
speaking of absent people and podcasts.
Yeah, I was waiting.
So we find out that podcast is staying with Ray in Ray's Occult Books. And Ray has podcast as kind of his intern, kind of his assistant there. And podcast has started a online YouTube show for Ray where Ray interviews people that have objects that are possessed with a spirit or they believe is possessed with a spirit. And Ray is testing it with a PKE meter, and this old lady, like I don't know, she's like 100 years old. She brings this watch of her husband, and it's beeping, and she's like, the spirit of my husband is still in this watch. And my wife whispers over to me, she's like, that's because the battery's dying on the freaking watch. Like that's why he's beeping. And and Ray tested it, and there's no spirit in there. And then podcast comes with this hammer, and he's like, the viewers love this. And he bashes this watch that's like this memory of her husband, her dead husband. And I thought that was pretty funny. And while we're in the Ray's Occult, which I think that Ray, I was talking to my wife about it after this. Ray's role in the movie was great. So having Ray at Ray's Occult and being that advisor, that like Alfred to the team, that's where he needs to be. His purpose was fantastic. Ray was great. Ray was handled very well as an advisor and stuff that still wants to kind of fight, kind of like Alfred, like, hey, I want to be there with you, Master Bruce, or Master Phoebe, whatever. But I'm older, so I that's the way that Ray needs to be. So if any original Ghostbuster comes back again, keep Ray there doing the Alfred role. That's just my opinion. And as he's there with podcast, a dude comes in who's a new character, and I forget the name of the actor that plays him, but he's kind of a popular actor right now.
Come on, New Giovanni.
Yes,
yeah.
what you guys said. And
Kumail.
he plays a character
Kumar.
named
Yes.
Nadim Razmadi, and Nadim sells Ray this brass orb that we saw in the original in the opening of the movie, and he claims it belongs to his grandmother, and he's trying to get like as much money as he can from it. And the more Ray talks about what's going on it and the energy in it, the more he raises the price. And Ray gives him $100 for it, and he says, "I don't have any change." Runs away with $100. So when that happens, it unleashes a psychic charge that creates ice and earthquakes and damages one of the walls in the ghost containment unit. So, boys, let's. What's going on with this containment unit?
Well, it's nice that they do kind of address the containment units having issues, because that was one of the teases at the end of Afterlife. Like the final shot was the containment unit with the red light. And I feel like with the containment unit issues, I was kind of hoping that we would get more of a bust.
Basically, it's overpacked. It's full, and basically, the spirits are just it's at full capacity, and it's about.
Yeah.
So then basically they realized that they talked to Winston's guys, and he takes them over to the place where they've created a new containment unit. They converted an old aquarium.
which was neat just to see them more active. Like, um, so let's
Did you get this? Did you get this part when they introduced that new character? I kept trying to read his name. I think it was Penfield. I thought it said Renfield at first,
oh,
and
nice.
then
Yeah, I could.
also like he had the hair, and he kind of gave me real Ghostbusters, Extreme Ghostbuster animated look.
Egon, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they did say that with this film they took more inspiration from the real Ghostbusters cartoon series. Um, I just was gonna say here, Bryan is checking on something. I just thought we could. We'll finish. I'll finish reading the synopsis, and we can talk about it more. Let's see here. We hit the Melody who died in a fire. Meanwhile, Dr. Ray Stantz and his intern Phoebe's old friend podcast host an online show, which we were talking about. Um, let's see, which damages the walls. Additionally, the Ghostbusters realize the containment unit is close to capacity. Winter introduces the Spanglers to the Paranormal Research Center, a massive offset research lab where scientists, including Lars Penfield and his intern, Trevor's old friend Lucky, study captured ghosts and raise haunted items and have built a new, bigger containment unit. Despite having a machine to extract ghosts and spiritual energies from objects, Penfield finds it impossible to extract anything from the orb, and the attempts overload the lab's power supply. Other ghosts in the lab seem enthralled with the orb under its control. Trevor, Penfield, and Lucky visit Nadim and discover the hidden brass lined chamber where Nadine's grandmother had stored the orb. Nadine himself is also charged with spiritual energy and psychological evolution by Dr. Peter Venkman reveals that Nadim has latent pyronic powers. Ray, Phoebe, and podcast take what they know of the orb to Dr. Hubert Wartsky, played by the Patton Oswalt, and in the New York Public Library. According to Warski, the orb contains a powerful godlike entity named Garaka, who sought to conquer the earth with an army of ghosts and a weapon called the Death Chill. Until it was trapped in the orb by fire masters using weapons of fire and brass. The patient's lion statue comes to life and attacks Ray. Phoebe is briefly arrested for antagonizing Peck, while Winston berates Ray for his carelessness and his endangerment of children. This is another moment where I was waiting for Lewis Tully. And this is where Phoebe runs away to her family, having contacted a plan to meet Melody, and Melody tricks her to be revealed that she is working with Garaka to move to the other side. And they trick Phoebe into becoming a ghost so that Garaka can use her to help release it. When later in the film, when Garaka arrives, it's overwhelming the Ghostbusters and breaks open the containment unit, freeing 40 years worth of ghosts. Phoebe configure proton pack with brass, making Garaka vulnerable to its proton streams. Realizing that Garaka was only using her, Melody chooses to betray Garaka, lights a match to help Nadim.
Hold on, before you go on, I know we want to move through the movie here, but you got to touch on the fact that she had to use the brass because he's too powerful for their normal typical proton packs.
Yes.
Like he's resistant.
So what did you think about this scene where he basically freezes the proton streams and pushes back?
I thought it was awesome.
And
it looked
was awesome.
It looked cool. And yeah.
We up the anti-power of the ghost, like, and I mean right there in the end, like they basically created work for themselves by having the the thing explode and all the ghosts get free. They have to recapture ghosts they captured, years ago. So that's kind of fun. As far as like set up for, more stories, but I mean, let's look at it. Afterlife was really good as a capping off kind of a trilogy.
The Gozer,
like
and Zool.
Yeah. Yes. Before they just sent Gozer back, to the dimension Gozer came from. In Afterlife, they actually trapped Gozer. So, it was a difference, and they needed something that was going to be big, bad, and powerful. And
This guy looked.
one of
This
my,
guy looked it, especially when he grabbed those horns, stuck them back on his head. I was like, oh, like yeah.
I was a little frustrated that the freezing part didn't come earlier in the film. I kind of was thinking that was going to be more midway through, and we were going to actually see more of New York experience this freeze.
Is that because of the trailer? Like that's how it
I
started.
think the trail I think the trailer really helped cement that in my mind, and it's called Frozen Empire, like in all the promotion parts, really using ice. So I really kind of expected the death chill to come in earlier, and that'd be more of an obstacle as far as just the freezing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, let me ask you this at the beginning, since we're kind of passed by a little bit. Were you not a little frustrated with Winston when the fact that they're driving the Ecto 1 and it's like a hoopty? Like, and one of his closing comments was, "What did they do to you, baby? I'm gonna fix you up, get you home." Like,
I mean,
they're having power issues, no air in the Ecto, like it's having it. I'm like, why? I was almost expecting them to introduce a new Ecto in this film.
I mean, it looked nice and clean from the outside. Like it was cleaned up compared to Afterlife. It was a beater in Afterlife. So obviously he did, maybe like body repair work to it, but didn't really fix any of the components on the inside. And then obviously like they probably have to have some extra power source or something to power all that stuff, or it's using the battery from inside and it's draining it all the time. So you know,
Yeah. I mean, I find it a funny balance that we introduced Winston as having this big business and being wealthy and what he's doing over here. But then the firehouse and the Ghostbusters stuff all looks like it's falling apart and janky.
well, I mean, we did get to see Ray have a bike. That looks pretty cool.
I, that was cool. The Ecto
C,
C,
yeah,
was it?
Ecto C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really neat. Um, one of Jania's favorite parts is small is when Trevor comes downstairs and is like, "Mom, there's something going on in the attic," and she's like, "You're an adult, figure it out."
She's just on the phone.
Yeah, like because he, the whole time he's like, "I'm an adult now. I'm 18 now." She's like, "You're an adult, like figure it out." And we were talking about like arcs, like Trevor's kind of tossed to the side, like the movie starts where he wants to drive and no, and then it ends where they give him the keys to drive the Ecto.
Yeah.
So that's like his arc. He hunts down Slimer.
Yeah.
He has some
I
cool
know
scenes
that
hunting
guy.
Slimer. Yeah, that was a great line,
Like,
like
yeah. Do you want to just finish running through? That way we can just start talking some more.
yeah,
All right.
it's basically while Ray configures the broken containment unit and heavy duty ghost trap together, the Ghostbusters successfully capture Garaka and reverse the death chill. Saving Phoebe allows Melody to cross over in the afterlife. The city celebrates the Ghostbusters. Winton bullies Mayor Peck into publicly supporting the team and reinstating Phoebe. The Spanglers and Gary, whom Phoebe calls dad for the first time, depart in the Ecto 1 to round up the escaped ghosts. In a post-credit scene reveal, Minnie Puffs steal a large tractor trailer filled with Stay Puft marshmallows from a truck stop. So
And that's the movie.
I feel like I don't want to jump to like what I want for my next one. But I feel like this movie kind of ends with a nice little arc. If you think about how the other two Ghostbusters movies in New York end, it always kind of ends like with them cheering, but we never see the next beat.
No.
And I felt like how this one, we felt like we got that next beat of what would happen after an event.
So, yeah. So, when I saw the final, like the mid credit scene, I thought that was going to be so in the original script. If you listen to my original podcast episode, make sure you go back and listen to it. It's good.
I only listened
Anyway,
to the first and half of the second one. So.
my man. So in the original script for Ghostbusters, Aykroyd had a scene in there that they cut where there was a like an unsanctioned ghost containment unit in a New Jersey gas station. And there was like supposed to be this side team of Ghostbusters that were actually like working at a gas station in Jersey. And that's what I thought that was. And I was like, oh man, like is that like gonna lead up to like, the this ragtag group that was just kind of there. Um
Well, with that thought, Winston does drop a line where he talks about there is more psychic and paranormal phenomenon going on around the world when he's talking to the mayor. So the idea that there's could be expansion or something else like is not, it's set up, I feel, in this film.
What do you think of? I mean, okay, maybe it just has to happen in a Ghostbusters film. But why are the police and the city officials and the government? I get it; they're doing a lot of damage, but they've already proven themselves to you multiple times that that one, ghosts exist, and two, that they're capable of handling ghosts. So why do they always?
I'm with you. I am with you because, like, I think that was like if you look into Ghostbusters 2, like part of it is like nobody really saw what happened on the roof, but yet there was Stay Puft the Marshmallow Man. You know what I'm saying? And as it is so much that people in New York deny it or just, you know, shuff it off. Cause I feel like that was one of my biggest issues in Ghostbusters 2 is it had been 5 years and people act like nothing happened. Now you jump 20, 25 years without anything happening. You have a whole new generation or two that are just like, what is this? But at the same time, like it would have been cool to see some cop or something who was younger or a young cop who's now an old cop who's like, they saved the city, and acknowledge that there's something happened. I mean, even that's the whole joke in Ghostbusters 2 when they're on trial is the two ghosts of the Scolari brothers pop up. And the judge immediately is like freeing them because, uh, what do you call it? Because he believes he sees it. It's actually proof. So yeah, I feel like that's why I feel like the next movie, one of the biggest things is we need to stop with this Ghostbusters being suppressed. Now, the fact that it's Walter Peck makes sense. He still has a grudge with them, but we need to move past this.
yeah, like I I kind of feel there was just so many characters that had nothing to do like at all. We went through the whole movie here, but um just briefly, I just want to say, I just want to share my thoughts. Thank you guys for going through the movie. But as far as Gary, he should have proposed. Like that should have been the end of the movie. At the end of the movie, he should have proposed, so we get a clear thing that this guy is going to be the step teacher, or stepfather.
From step teacher to step dad. Like that's a joke you set up when he said
Yeah,
step
yeah,
teacher,
right.
not being able to identify himself. Like, and then at the end, he has a definition of himself. And I mean, it could have been a hilarious scene of like Venkman could have been like, I can do the wedding. I'm actually licensed. I got bored in the 90s. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and if they would have ended it with them getting married,
or
yeah,
Lewis shows up,
yeah,
or
or Louis
Lewis
shows
shows
up
up as
early.
being
Yeah,
as a lawyer, and he now performs weddings too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Bryan, we did mention about the new character. What's his name? Pinefield, and how
yeah,
he
Penfield,
Penfield,
yeah,
Minefield, yeah.
how
Lars.
he kind of looked like the cartoon version of Egon with the blonde hair, the little squiggly
Yeah,
at the top. He had the glasses, the blue suit. How that was something I noticed. I was like, so
I, I like just going down the list here. I felt Lars I felt Lars was a welcome addition to the cast because you need someone that can do that tech because Phoebe, she's not there yet. She's still a little young. Gary's not going to be able to do it. You need someone that's going to handle the tech. So them having so in my head, I'm always thinking comics and stuff. So so you have Ray as your Alfred. You have this Lars guy as your Lars is
Morgan Freeman.
your Morgan
Yeah.
Freeman, your
What's
Lucius
his name?
Fox.
Lucius Fox.
Q,
Thank
Lucius
you.
Fox.
Lucius
There you
Fox.
go.
You know, and then you have Winston as your, I don't know, your Wayne Enterprises in a suit. You know, I
Yeah,
don't know how to put it.
he's
You know,
the bank.
um, yeah, right. Like so, Trevor. Trevor needed something more with Lucky. He needed something more to do. He was just kind of there. You know, like we said earlier, there should have been the story of, you know, him being 18, him, you know, what should have happened is, sorry, I get so excited. What should have happened is, you know, they were in New York originally, and then they moved to Oklahoma for a few months or so. Now they're back in New York where they were originally, and they, you know, that's where they live. So why wasn't there any interaction with her previous? Like, I assume Phoebe had to have some previous friends in New York, like, or at
She
least like.
didn't, remember? That was the thing. She didn't have friends. Trevor
But
would have
Trevor sure
maybe
did, because he made a
Trevor would have.
huge
Yes.
comment, like, "I'm leaving all my friends," you know, whatever. There was nothing. There should have been something with like, it would have been nice to have a little side story of like Trevor going back maybe to an old girlfriend or a love interest or something, and then, hey, Lucky's here, like
Here's
something.
a question.
Yeah,
Not that I don't like the character, but should Lucky have been in the movie?
no,
She served no
she served
point.
no point, and there was no
I think
rationale why she was even there.
you
Because
could have had
she was in Afterlife, that's why.
Oh
right,
yeah, yeah, right. And you have to have a Winston
and
character.
and I think, yeah, I mean, I think you could have had it where she was still back in Somerville, and you saw that tension between them trying to find their relationship, and him being back in New York, and her there, and then maybe she showed up at the end, you know, like or something. I think podcast being there was great with the whole like it's a summer
Yeah,
internship,
pretend to
but
be at space camp.
I
That was hilarious.
I feel like trying to have everybody back was detrimental.
Yes,
Now,
You know,
really hurt.
this? This is what about that whole plot with the ghost girl? What if she was trying to like seduce Trevor? Like, wouldn't that have been maybe a more
Finch,
believable thing
out
too?
of the mouth,
Where's
out of the
he's
mouth
an
of man.
18-year-old boy. This ghost chick comes up to you. She's not an ugly ghost chick. I mean, she wasn't, but she
He
wasn't
was not
bad.
at all.
And you know what I mean? Like, she could be like, "Hey, like, have you ever like thought you could be
like
friends with the
yeah,
ghost?" And then like he's like,
That's
"What?"
it.
And he's
That's
like
it right there.
infatuated, and then he does something stupid
That's the
he's
because
the one
he's
that
a
does
boy, and he's not as smart as the girl.
that's
So
the answer.
right. You mix it up. You mix.
That's
He's
the
having
answer.
trouble with Lucky. He misses her. She's not there. They get in a big fight because they haven't really defined their relationship. He interacts with this ghost. Maybe when he was like hunting for Slimer, he finds her or something, tying that two story parts. And yeah, exactly what you said. It gives him something to do because
Finch cracks the damn code.
honestly, he's a character that I think in a way you could cut out from Afterlife even and just make her a single mom with one daughter. And that makes their tension even heavier because she doesn't have a kid that she can relate to and talk to because her and Phoebe are such polar opposites. Um, because Trevor didn't, I mean, he had things to do, but once again, I think there are
If
things that we could work
if
on writing him out
yeah,
of.
if Trevor was supposed to be the new Peter, which is kind of what we were hinting at in Afterlife, where's the ladies' man vibes? Where's the Peter vibes? We got none of that. Like, so yeah, if you cut Trevor and Lucky out of this movie, it still would have been fine. If you cut Lucky, for sure. But I'm with Finch. If Trevor, this chick should have been, she said she was 16, but like, but whatever. If this chick would have seduced Trevor, it would have made so much. It would have worked better. I'm totally with Finch on that. Absolutely.
Give the story to your characters that you have. You already have so much with Phoebe. Phoebe doesn't need this side story. But now, because Phoebe has podcast who's there, who's her friend.
Yeah, that's what my wife said. My wife was like, "So is podcast not her bestie anymore? Like, podcast is just kind of there to be with Ray, and like we don't know what we want to do, and that's just weird. Like, why is she searching around looking for a friend or something to do when like podcast is there? Like, He's her pal.
Or oh, wait. I got it. Tying back to things I said earlier. Trevor meets this girl, but he doesn't know she's a ghost. Like, she's at the point where she can pull off her manifestation to where she looks human, and he's interacting with it. It's one of those where if we pay really close attention to the film, we see that she's never acknowledged by anyone else when they're around. Like, she just makes herself, and he's interacting with her, and like he tries to impress her and show off that ghost thing, and it's there that's revealed that she's a ghost working for the bad guy. So basically,
better.
everything we've been saying, like, it works so much stronger because it gives Trevor something to do. It gives him an arc to build, because he's 18, and we all know that when we're 18, we're like, I'm an adult, but you're really still a child.
And girls, what?
Yeah. So it really hits home more of him coming into an adulthood and gives him kind of his growing arc. That we didn't really see in the last film, that we felt that Phoebe had her kind of coming of age arc in the last one. So, yeah, I just think that they missed that opportunity.
The Nadim, the
Kamal.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you for having
He's
my
an
back there.
Eternal. You should know this.
Oh, yeah, but Eternal sucked. Eternal
He was in the
should have
big-
been a mini series. But anyway,
Mhm.
Kamal, he was in Obi-Wan as well. And Kamal's character, this whole Fire Master thing, I was not a fan of. I think it needs to stick to Ghostbusters and Ghostbuster technology. And when we start adding in like pyrokinesis and stuff, and having people having powers fighting ghosts, then we're adding in Avengers type superhero elements, and that's taking away from
the
Ghostbusters. Like
He-
watching that with Jen, my wife has very good thoughts, but she doesn't give them to me all the time. but Jen was just like, that's not Ghostbusters. Like, if we go into, like, I like them pulling Patton Oswald's character was just fine. Him being
Yeah.
just like archivist and just having like a little small role, it was good. It didn't hurt anything. My wife's a librarian, so like we really appreciate that.
The old library.
The real library. Yes. And it was good seeing that little librarian ghost and the original manager or director of the library being there. That was great.
Can I quickly share a story about that ghost?
Can.
So I listened to Real Blend, and they interviewed Gil Kinnan, and he's talking about that they used real footage from the original Ghostbusters shoot and special effects logs that they were alternate takes that weren't used in the first film. And they talked about watching on 70 millimeter, finding this in archive to put her back in and make it the legit actress person. And they used the same puppet that they had used before. So they really wanted to make it as authentic as possible. And how quickly she's even on the screen, and the work that they put in to bring that to life was pretty cool.
She looked great. Like, it was nice. Like, it was good seeing that. It was just a good callback.
I was gonna say, everything like with Nadim, you could have had that character, had him be the one that he did sell it and all that, and he just talked about his grandma and the stories that she would tell, and how he just, he kind of ignored it, and she was part of a group. And then he talked about the fire like that. And then what happens is Phoebe, like how she dipped the brass. Great. That's cool. But then there could have been some sort of like, how am I gonna say this? Proton fire. So it looks like a flame, but with that same color of a proton pack that she creates, creating a new Ghostbuster kind of weapon. So it's like a fire proton pack, based on the stories. You know what I'm saying? So that you get, and so once again, you're pulling it back to, it's the Ghostbusters, fighting this, not this firebender. So
what also killed me is she cuts down the pole, and then the pole's right there.
Like, said that I had thing to my wife. I said, "Where did she cut it?" Because they just slide right down.
I thought that to myself. I was like,
"There's only one pole."
unless it was a rail, like she cut a brass rail around the pole at the top.
House up and down, but
They zoomed
So-
They zoomed in onto the pole, and she's cutting it.
Yep.
Unless she cut it like right at like the top level where like nobody goes. You know what I mean?
I guess
No,
I don't-
because
but
someone
yeah,
goes down the pole later. It's
it's
after she
Nadim.
cut, someone goes down that pole. Yeah, Nadim in
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
suit.
because
Yeah.
he's squeaking down with the suit on because he's yeah. No, he was funny in the movie. I'll admit that.
He was funny.
He had some
I'm
good
just like,
one-liners and stuff. But
hey, what size shoe you wear, man?
eight, what do you say, 10? He's like, oh, I got
Yeah.
some
He's
eights.
squeezing the A.
Yeah, like, can you fit to an 8?
And then
He's like, no.
and then when they talk about his grandma or whatever, he's like, oh,
That's my
a sex
that was my
dungeon.
dad's favorite. Painting. I couldn't part with it for less than 60 to 100.
Do you have,
What's your
you have a sex dungeon there, Finch?
Sorry, but
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know where that room goes to.
Oh, that's goes to the rest of my house.
The sex
But like
dungeon.
like Brian said, like you could ride around and have Nadim and do things, but you kind of took away the specialty of why we're there, which are the Ghostbusters, which is like science and not like it's paranormal, but it's more science based and supernatural based in a sense. Like, him being able to be psycho connect with fire. I mean, it's still kind of paranormal in that realm, but I think it undercuts the values of the individual Ghostbusters because then you had Melnitz with a sweet new Ghostbuster weapon, you know? And how cool would it have been if Phoebe would have created instead of just she would have dipped the brass and that could have been like on Trevor's pack. And then she created a proton fire cannon, so we got another new type of Ghostbuster pack, like a completely new design wand and everything.
I think one thing though is you mentioned about how Winston either at the end when he's talking about there's threats and other types of manifestations and things like that. I think they are trying to set up the future, so they are introducing more mystical elements and things like that, which I mean I'm for it, man. Like I think like we were saying, maybe it is time to move on from the old Ghostbuster guys. I mean, I want to keep Ray and we can keep Winston because Winston does not look like that man aged. He black don't crack.
I think you're going to say what I'm thinking.
But
that's what
Black don't
my
crack.
wife says. We were driving home and I was like, have you never heard? I was like, Finch even said this like last time you recorded. I was like, have you never heard black don't crack? She's like, oh, that makes total sense now. She's like, yeah. I'm like, exactly.
Black don't crack, Asian don't crazen, or Asian don't raisin. That's what it is, right? Sorry.
Nice.
And white don't bite. Hard.
Hard. Wow. But no, like, okay, Brian, so where am I going with this?
So I can't believe I'm saying this because it hurts me to say it. I feel that Peter Venkman he's not needed anymore.
No, he's not.
And that hurts me. But
unless
yes, good.
What happened to Oscar? He would be in his 30s, right?
Thank you.
Yes.
I was leading to that. Let's shelf Oscar for a second. But Peter Venkman, I don't think he's needed anymore. Like he didn't really add too much to this movie, and so I don't think he's needed anymore. Unless we bring Oscar, which we'll mention in a second. So I felt that podcast was great to have, but he needed to have that Ghostbusters role. The ghost side character was stupid. Lars is needed. Peter really wasn't needed. Ray totally needed. Janine. So we got in the trailer this big thing of her suiting up. But I still think that she didn't have that part to shine, really, very much. And so I guess what I'm getting at before we go more into some thoughts here is I think this movie just didn't know what it wanted to do. Like it wanted to go back to New York and it wanted to bring back that nostalgia. So it brought back the original cast, but it just didn't know what the hell to do with them. So, this movie should have been more of a well, honestly, I think that the end of Afterlife was good enough as a passing a torch moment. We showed up, we said bye to Egon. Peter said to her, "You did a good job," to Phoebe. And that's all we really needed from the regular team, to be honest. But if we're going to continue with this original Ghostbuster thing, we need to know who we want our team to be. So if the team is going to be, Phoebe, Trevor, Podcast, and Lucky, then that should have been established in this movie, and it wasn't. So, it was more of we don't really know who we want our team to be. We don't know if we want it to be the Spanglers with Gruberson. We don't know. We kind of want. We have these characters from Afterlife that okay, so we'll throw Lucky in here where it doesn't make sense because her dad was a police chief, and it just doesn't make sense. We'll throw her in there. Podcast makes sense. Put him with Ray. That's where he's supposed to be. Like, Lucky didn't make. We just discuss that. Um, it didn't know what it wants this new team to be. So if the team is going to be the Spanglers, focus on the Spanglers. If it's going to be, the new cast with podcasts and stuff, then then it should have been Gary proposing to Callie, and let's shelf them because now they're going to go be married and whatever. And then you need, well, then you lead into Winston kind of leading and helping these kids as whatever. Like,
You got
you need
you got me.
you didn't tell me what the hell you want the futures of Ghostbusters to be. You didn't know what you
You
wanted
got
to
it.
do.
So
Yeah.
with everything you just
Yes,
said,
my boy.
going back to the discussion between, I think Pete is now just a cameo. Okay.
Okay.
Is what you need
That's
from
my
him.
boy. That's what you need from Pete.
Okay.
You're right.
I think the two that you have to work with is Ray and Winston, and they already set up in this movie with arguing about their golden
That
years.
was my favorite part.
And I think what you need to have is you need to have Ray. Part of the theme of this one should have, like, Ray and Winston themselves realizing they can't do this anymore. Because, they kind of came back at the end of the last one. They
Yeah.
had to step back into it.
Yep.
And this movie, if it wasn't a complete passing of the torch, it is that final, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, we should have had Ray out there with them kind of thing. And they're like kind of butting heads, like, man, like, he's not letting us do our thing. Like, they're kind of looking like, who's really leading this team? Is it a team, like you said, finding the identity of who the team is? And it's Ray accepting he is the advisor. He's now the instructor, and he moves back into the firehouse and starts to really, like, we're going to basically Ghostbusting boot camp because now we actually have more sightings and we have to go catch all those ghosts. So I need to get you in top shape, kind of thing. And him really accepting his role now as putting his proton pack down, realizing he's now just, the advisor.
He's research and development, and
Yeah. And that's how you officially pass the torch and step away with that. We don't need to put them in action every time. Now it comes to, they get like a 1 or 2 scene in the new film. Like, this was supposed to be the final, like you said, it should have been about identity. Is it the old team fighting to really still be the old team, and the new team, kind of like that Extreme Ghostbusters episode where the
There he
old
is.
team shows back up, and they're butting heads. It kind of should have been in that vibe, so that the next movie, like I said, I feel like Afterlife was like its own thing of, this is Ghostbusters 3. If we don't make another one, we've kind of said goodbye to these characters. We've capped off a trilogy. We've done something special and unique. This movie is now like the fallout of that, of like building, like you said, identity and really carving where we want to go with this new franchise. And I think that all the elements were here in this film to then start the new franchise and do something different, move past New York, create in your next movie where maybe you have a team that's led, you have 2 teams, kind of like an X-Men Gold, X-Men, was it Blue? Like, you have Trevor leading a team and then you're leading a team, and they have to investigate in other places other than just New York. I don't know, something along the lines of when they originally, pitched the idea of Ghostbusters being kind of like a working class shift, like a policeman or a fireman, where now there has to be more Ghostbusters. So,
you know what this movie needed was multiverse.
Dude, me and Brian
Speaking of
made a joke
multiverse,
me and Brian made a joke years ago talking about Ghostbusters about having the, like one of the lady Ghostbusters show up as like from another Earth or something. But I think like that was fun when we made that joke back in like 2020, waiting for Afterlife. Now, no, no.
well, speaking of multiverse stuff, in the 2016 Ghostbuster film with the females, the post-credit scene mentioned hearing a sound clip of Zool. So they were totally leading towards that they were probably going to do this different dimension thing with the original team, this female team for Ghostbusters. So as we close the book on Frozen Empire, uh, I want to ask you guys if they're going to spin off Ghostbusters again, or if we want to go back to 2016 or whatever we want to do. I'd say modern day. So if you were to do a female ghost movie again, strictly female, and do a side story and try to do it again and try to do it right, how would you do it? That's a question I wanted to ask you guys. So
Like if I was doing it now, like right now,
if
like
you were to do it right now,
I don't think you need to do a complete female thing. I think right there that was something even Sayla said to me when I said the all girls Ghostbusters. She goes, "Why?" Because I feel like it's the same thing of why I always hated in school, boys versus girls. You create some sort of divide, even if you don't want to. All of a sudden, you have people who don't like the idea of an all girl Ghostbusters. I personally, it doesn't matter to me, but the idea is why do that? Why? Like this is a blended team. You have 2 men, 2
I
women
prefer blended.
on the new team. Okay,
That's why
it
the
makes
new one
sense. You
works. Yeah.
you just have people. You don't look at like, oh, this is the all girl team because that creates division. And like at the same time, I ask why. So I wouldn't. Now step back to 2016. If I'm pitching the idea of an all
The
girls
real question I was
Ghostbusters,
asking you guys to prepare for tonight, the real question I was asking is, Sony goes to you and says, "Hey, we want to try the female Ghostbuster franchise again. To go with it. We didn't do so well, 8 years ago. We want to try again. How are you going to do it?"
Real quick, I rewatched the 2016 one.
Yeah,
I didn't hate it as much as I originally did. It's
if
not
you
that
think of it,
bad.
you look at it as a living cartoon.
it's bad.
See, now, okay, now this is part of my answer to Brian's question. Ghostbusters, we'll say the 4 Ghostbuster films all exist in this horror comedy drama vein. Ghostbusters 2016 is more just straight of a comedy.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're real.
So with that, I would do a Ghostbusters film that's more horror drama and with a little bit of comedy in there,
Oh,
just natural comedy. But if I'm gonna branch out, I'm gonna change the tone a little bit. Like, of course, I would love to see a Ghostbusters film directed by my boy James Wan because I think he's an amazing director.
that's your director
But
choice for the question.
that would be my director
Who's
choice.
writing
And if
it?
I was gonna, I would let Juan and Winnell do it. Um,
So
if
straight horror, James Wan. Who's your team?
well, I mean, if we're gonna do an all girls team, I would say it's something where Lucky is a sign. If we're gonna keep her character and we're coming out of Frozen Empire, Lucky and Callie, or go to start a new team because and then Gruberson or just Lucky is given her new team to go. It branches out from Winston's thing. Like we take Lucky, and then there was the other female scientist we saw working there. She takes her, develop her character, and then they have to recruit 2 more, and they go off and start their own team.
Interesting.
If we're
Okay.
going to spin it
Okay.
out of Frozen Empire,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? If we're connecting it, and you said like Sony's like, hey, we got the Ghostbusters, let's do an all girl again. If we're going to spin it from there, I think if we're talking about Lucky as a very unserved character in this film, then let's serve her and let her time to shine and grow that character.
Well, see, I took this question as just like kind of you could say alternate timeline, just redoing the 2016 one with today's cast or whatever,
Sure.
right? So I'll give you mine.
So my questions for you guys were, the first question was like, or one of the questions was, would you put it in the same universe? who would you have as your team? Who would write the movie, and who would direct it?
I would put it in the same universe because I am tired of everything trying to do multiverse
Amen.
and parallel stuff. And I think it also just gives more credence to all the foundation you've set up in this movie and just letting it grow. Like I've said, we're at a point now where if you're going to do Ghostbuster movies, you have to let it grow a little bit, and you can't keep doing the same formula of just in New York, just this. New York hates them. New York likes them. Like, we need to move past that. New York accepts them. The world accepts them. We got to grow it. And I would just, like I said, I would spin it from here.
See, I'm going alternate
Yeah,
timeline
yeah. Give me Finch.
because
Give me what you got.
Ghostbusters feels like a movie that really does work with the multiverse because ghosts enter in different dimensions and other things like that. It just, for me, it feels like the one franchise that like should have alternate realities and portals to different worlds and things like that, right? So just, I didn't put anybody to write it, but I'll probably just put
Me, I'll write it.
hey, Tyler's a pretty good writer. I had directed by Olivia Wilde.
Ooh.
Okay.
Uh,
I
I
could
like
tell.
her.
She was Gozer. Hey, she was Gozer.
Was she in the afterlife, right?
Yes, she
Like,
was.
yeah, she's Gozer.
Okay, so she already has a connection to the franchise. But I was looking at it more as like she did what was it? The one with Harry Styles.
Yeah, don't darlings, don't why is it? Don't something my darlings or something like that.
Yeah.
Die,
It
my
had Chris
darling.
Pine in it.
Whatever.
It was a Chris Pine movie. Yeah.
Chris Pine
Cowboys and
movie.
Aliens.
Okay.
I know she did that.
She directed that?
No, she directed
Or
this.
she was in Cowboys and Aliens.
Don't Worry, Darling
Yeah.
is what it's called. Don't
My-
Worry,
my-
Yeah.
Darling. She also directed Booksmart, which is a good comedy movie that's like raunchy, but like it's like super bad, but like more adult, like not just raunch
Sure.
comedy. So I picked and I just wrote it like this. I wrote Winston type because at the end of Afterlife, Winston says Egon was the brains, Ray was the heart, Peter was the guy that kept it cool, and then Annie Potts goes, "Well, who are you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm the sex appeal, right?" But then everybody knows that Ray's like, or Winston's the everyman, right?
Yeah.
So the way I wrote it, I just said Winston type, and obviously I'm going to be stereotypical here, or I'm going to be, some might say racist or whatever, but I'm going Danielle Brooks. Do we know Danielle
Okay.
Brooks from Peacemaker? She played Adebayo.
I like
She's
her.
in The Color Purple. She
I
was
like
in
her.
Orange Is New Black. She's a great actress. She gives me that feeling of like if she sees a ghost, she would be terrified and still try to like fight it and stuff like that. She gives me that feel.
I would almost make her like your Ray type. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But
Well, I have this one.
because one of my problems was with the 2016 was it was supposed to be a reboot, but then I feel like each one of those actresses fell into just kind of copying the beats of their male counterpart instead of trying to make their own thing.
Except Kate
So-
McKinnon, because what the hell was she in that movie?
She's still like Egon. She's just the more eccentric like style
Kim
of
McKinnon
Egon.
was
Like,
fantastic.
She was way out there, man.
Best part of the movie.
I don't know. Chris Hemsworth was the best part of that movie. So for I have this as my Egon type, but I also have arrows that say like she could switch with the Peter type. But I have Ali Wong.
okay.
She's from
Yeah.
she's from
Okay.
Beef and a couple other things, right? For my Ray type, I have Amy Garcia. I'm going a little diverse. I'm changing it up a little bit. So
That's what Extreme Ghostbusters was all about.
Well, she was in Lucifer. She was the forensics chick from Lucifer.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
She was in Dexter, I think, or something like.
Yeah.
She's been in a couple other things, right? And then for my Peter type, I just went like with like a hot young actress, Lily Reinhart. So just I like her. I don't know. She's one of my girls I like. And then for the male receptionist, because I'm kind of copying, you got to have like a hot guy, and I'm going Alexander Skarsgård. And then for writing it, I got Bryce Dallas Howard.
Mm.
I'm going a female director, female writer, mainly female cast. Alexander Skarsgård as the receptionist. It's kind of like that Chris Hemsworth stuff where it's like he's a good-looking guy, but I've seen him do a little bit of funny stuff. He was in Atlanta. He did a couple other funny things, and I think he can be funny, but he can be serious, and we know he can do action. So yeah, that's my cast. Um,
I like it. I
Solid.
like it. I like it.
Yeah, solid.
Thank you.
I like how you said type because I think you can have the type without being the one-to-one comparisons. You know, just going back to your Winston and Janine conversation. So
All right. All right. So for my female idea, I didn't really have a story together. Um, but I'm pretty confident in my cast. So on my team, my female Ghostbuster team, well, I'll just say who's writing and directing it. So who's directing it? I I guess I chose easy choice. I guess maybe Greta Gerwig is going to direct it, and
nice.
I wanted to play it safe because like if I was in charge of this, I want to play it safe. Greta has proven herself, with writing Barbie that she can handle an iconic thing and make it work. So putting Ghostbusters in the hands of Greta, I'm very confident in directing that. Um, I was trying to. I looked at female directors and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to play it safe with this one, and I'm confident with that. I'm going to make this in the same universe as the Ghostbuster franchise. As this is Winston kind of, you know, going and franchising. I don't know what city I'd put it in. I don't know. I didn't think about that part. So Greg Gerwig going to direct it. Who's going to write it? I have Amy Poehler and Tina Fey. They're SNL alum. They're best pals. They know how to write stuff. 30 Rock, Parks and Rec. They know how to do ensemble casts. They know how to make it work. And they're funny as heck. Like, it works. And for my cast, I have, I don't have defined roles of who would be who. This is who I think would work really great together. So I have Kristen Bell, uh, Natasha Lyonne. Now,
Yeah.
if you
Russian
know
doll.
Natasha Lyonne, she's on Poker Face on Peacock right now. Orange is the New Black. She's American Pie alum.
Russian doll.
Russian Doll.
Mm-hmm.
Russian Doll, also written by Amy Poehler. Um, like they know how, these women would work well together. That's kind of what I was thinking in my head too. Um, Natasha, I think, is just great. Natasha might be the right character. Kristen Bell, I like her work in The Good Place. I like her work in that Netflix show she did. That was just one season where she was like the paranoid,
Yeah.
the woman across the street from blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Um, she she's just funny and she's a pretty girl. Like she can be your Peter or whatever. And then I want to bring back Kate McKinnon. I I think she's probably one of the best parts of the 2016 Ghostbusters. I think she was the only one that was really having fun. She was very weird, very quirky, but I'm going to tweak her character. I want her to play more close to not so much Egon-ish character in 2016. I want her to play I wanted her to play the character that she plays in SNL of the woman that was abducted by aliens.
I knew you were going there. I knew you were going there. And that would be
I had
perfect.
my
That would
gooter,
be
my
exactly
gooter.
why.
I want her to play that character as a Ghostbuster. That's what I want. That's why I'm choosing Kate here. And then to round it out, I have I'll probably mispronounce her name wrong, but Zazie Betts, played Domino in Deadpool 2. It was in Joker. I think she works good in the simulcast. I think she's funny, but I think for a serious character on the team that she would do quite well. So that's my female lineup.
That's a good cast.
Yeah.
You both had a good
Thanks,
cast.
You'd
boys.
have to have Ryan Gosling as the receptionist with Kate McKinnon's character as the SNL girl, because when they're on SNL
That's
together.
exactly what I did. I picked Ryan Gosling as my secretary, as my Janine type character. Yep.
I think with casting, you did a great job because I think you found people that we've seen in different roles who, when I look at the 2016, they're all comedians, but they're not like, none of them had, I don't know, serious acting sensibilities. Like they're even in their more dramatic, you look at like reading the original Ghostbusters script.
Mhm.
It's not really written to be funny. Like it's
It wasn't
written,
intended.
but it's the
No.
actors, it's the delivery, the actors themselves, the way they brought it to life that brought the humor. That's why it's a very serious film, but is funny because it's a natural comedy. 2016 is going out of their way to be funny. Um, and that's how it was filmed. That's how they shot it. And that's how it was acted. So I think with both you guys' cast, you found people I think that can play funny. We've seen in things, but also can be serious. I think Ghostbusters, should be approached much like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein,
Yeah.
where the ghosts and stuff you play serious, and the world is serious, but you let the Ghostbusters be a little bit more fun and comical, but they're still interacting in that world.
Yeah. I think there's definitely good things to think about in the future for Ghostbusters. As we know, Ghostbusters is going to continue in some shape or form. So now,
Can I, before you,
yeah.
well, I don't know where you're headed. I just want to hear what you're going to go say about Oscar in the.
Oh gosh, thank you for
I want to
mentioning
hear.
that.
I
Thank you.
want to hear
Thank you
this.
so
I
much.
want to hear
Thank you so
this.
much. So I was disappointed. Well, I was going to transition to final thoughts of the movie stuff, but I was disappointed that we did not get Louis Tully. I was disappointed that there was no mention of Oscar. So I looked up an interview here on with the Hollywood Reporter. I found where they're interviewing Jason, or they're interviewing the co-writer, the director of
Gil,
it, Glenn
Gil,
Gill, whatever. They ask him straight up, "Do you know where Oscar Barrett is?" And he says, "We've got an idea." So where is Oscar Barrett? If for those listening, Oscar Barrett is the son of Dana Barrett, who was introduced in Ghostbusters 2, who is this massive cliffhanger that we didn't get to. We know that Ghostbusters 2 is canon. They made sure to remind us in this movie that it was canon when they were showing news clips and stuff. But where the heck's Oscar? Oscar would be 30 something right now. I
mm-hmm.
I when I was watching Afterlife, I was like, okay, so what if, Gooberson is really, Oscar or whatever, I thought like that's what they were going to lead to. But of course, that's not going on. So, is when they went into the aquarium, they went into the lab and they showed the Lars character before they said his name. I was like, is that Oscar? And it wasn't. Like, it's just they needed to bring back Oscar. And I think in terms of legacy stuff, if you're, in my penciled script for Ghostbusters 3, I had Oscar leading a new team of the Ghostbusters and having that legacy. So, um, I think just my final thoughts of what they should do for the next Ghostbusters. I think Ghostbusters has to stay in New York. I think that if you're gonna do when they do this cartoon, you can do that cartoon wherever the heck you want. When they do throw the cartoon on Netflix, I think the heart and soul Ghostbusters is New York. Like you can have them visit other cities maybe, but you gotta pull it back to New York. Also in Afterlife or in Frozen Empire, it didn't seem like a lot of characters were kind of having fun, except maybe Ray. If you watch this movie, like if you haven't caught it, if you during parts of the movie, they focus on Dan Aykroyd's face, and through parts of the movie, Dan Aykroyd has this pride on his face, like almost
Mhm.
like Dan Aykroyd's like, I created this. Me and Harold, me, Harold, and Ivan created this. Mostly me, but I'm seeing this like this is the future. Like this is the legacy I've created. And there's just scenes in the movie where he's just like smiling
Yeah.
and just pride. And like I go over to my wife and I'm like, he must be just on cloud nine right now, just seeing this happen. So I think Ray should be that Alfred. I already said what I want. But I think that the next one just needs to focus. If we're gonna do this Phoebe trilogy and the Spengler trilogy, then put podcasts aside, I guess. Put Lucky to the side, and let's no, I'm so sorry. Let's start the new movie with with the wedding. Let's get that out of the way, and then we have Phoebe podcast, Lucky, and let's just make that work, and let's close that chapter, and let's lead to this. I wouldn't even be mad if they did a story where we go into history and we do something in the past with like Ghostbusters of the past and like ancient stuff. But I really want them to go into Sam Hain. I want them to end this story with Sam Hain or
Well,
Boogeyman.
let's I like your idea of starting with the wedding, but let's have that Oscar comes back. Let's have that Oscar. He inherited a musical talent like his mom, but he always liked ghost busting, but it was never something that was feasible. And then he comes back and he wants to do it because he considers it part of his legacy. Uh, you know, Adoptive son of Venkman and actually have him being a part of things. And then you have him kind of butting heads with the Spanglers because he feels like he wants to do this. Like he's trying to force himself in, and he kind of is
That,
antagonistic to them
that sounds
because
nice.
I
he wants to play a role in this, but he can't find like where his place in because you now get the team when you start the next film. They are a team. Like you can see they've worked together. They've really established themselves. And Oscar, he kind of wants to be a part of things. And I wouldn't touch on like trying to bring back anything that has to do with Vigo. Like I would just be that it was something that happened to Oscar, and ever since then, like maybe he can sense ghosts or
See,
something. Just
I was
Ooh.
kind of leaning more towards that, like because I was saying, he was a baby and he was on that table, and I think Vigo did go inside of him, right? So I was
So
thinking
yeah,
okay.
maybe
So barring off
maybe
of
there's a
um,
little bit of what's the word? Remnant of
yeah.
that, like anger, and like when he sees that other team, he's angry, and like that starts to build something up. That slime or whatever reminiscent inside of him has always been there, and that builds that fire, and then boom, he releases like a new version of Vigo, or he becomes the
it's Vigo.
because I mean, it's like that's the thing about Afterlife. It was literally like you're fighting the same villain from the first one. This one I see it's like they did the same thing with the second one where it's like it had to be bigger. They go bigger than the Stay Puft. They go bigger with the Statue of Liberty. They go bigger. Everything has to be bigger in the sequels. We talked about that with Aquaman. We talked about that with something else. Yeah, I can't
They brought
remember
in
what it
Baraka.
yeah, yeah. Which he had the teeth too.
Yeah.
Like
Yep. The whole
like
time.
the horn. Yeah. So
Fatality. Yeah.
yeah, you had to go bigger, but I don't know. That's where I was leaning. But if you're saying maybe just have him as like a jealous person, maybe starting his own team.
Well,
No, I mean, I could
I
be.
like that.
I think you could work. I think it can work together. Like that jealousy streams from that kind of. He wanted to be a part of this, but it wasn't a thing anymore. He took more of like his mom's route, but then like he has some sort of residual energy left over, and he comes back to be a part of the team, and then maybe he ends up starting his own team,
You
like
could have just had
as
him
part of like
be
this.
with his dad in London or whatever with the orchestra. That he's
Yeah,
been there the whole time. And then now he's found out
and
the Ghostbusters are back. And
exactly,
like,
and he wants to be a
no,
part of
that's
it.
my legacy. That's not yours.
Mm.
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
he comes back
I
and,
like that idea. I like that idea because
but
in
I
my
like I said,
penciled scripts for Ghostbusters 3, I had Oscar going to start a new team, but I wrote that Ray was a conduit for the supernatural, where Ghost could channel through Ray, because in Ghostbusters 1, he's the one that Gozer, like Gozer read his mind, and then in Ghostbusters 2, Vigo tries to get into his mind. Like, Ray is more of that conduit, and that Ghost would use him. So, but Oscar makes perfect sense because he almost got possessed just as a baby. So, um, yeah, I like that. So, closing up this episode, I wanted to ask you guys: do you guys believe in UFOs? Tyler,
yeah, it's simple. Yes.
Finch,
If I believe in aliens, yes, because a UFO is just an unidentified flying object.
I was gonna
But if
say
you're
that.
asking if I believe in aliens, then yes.
you do believe in aliens?
I mean, I think there's more evidence to say that believing that something more is out there is more believable than just trying to think we're the only thing. No matter where you believe in the origin of everything comes from, I think you can rationalize and be like, yeah, if life out there. So
See, this is the part that I wish Steve was with us, because I I asked him, and he's like, yeah, no, I don't think I believe in aliens. I don't
Well,
think I do.
see, like I was gonna go with Tyler, where yes, I believe in UFOs because that's just an unidentified flying object. I do believe in aliens because for two reasons. One, the universe is so big, there's more than just us. We are not the center of the universe. Second of all, the fact that the government passed a bill or something
Thank
saying that
you.
they can limit what they tell us, and yet they still told us that aliens exist. What are they not telling us, bro? Come on. So,
Maybe it wasn't Steve that I had this interesting conversation with. I had it with Dave, who's a pastor. I asked, I was like, Dave, do you believe in UFOs? He's like, I believe in objects flying through the sky that we can't explain, that rich people own and maybe they're doing, but I don't believe in aliens. I'm like, well, and I'm going to say it to you guys. I believe in UFOs. I most certainly believe in aliens, because I keep going back. Like, anytime I talk to people about this subject, I keep going back to the line in Contact by Jodie Foster, that if we're all there is, then that's an awful waste of space. Like, I keep coming back to that. So, do you boys believe in astral projections, meaning out of body experiences?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think like there's different ways, like from a metaphysical or even when I had all that trouble back in 2016 with my back, I had to take some very strong painkillers and muscle relaxers, and I had an experience on those drugs, medications that I felt I was out of my body interacting with stuff. It was the trippiest, weirdest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Um, so I mean, I think that there's definitely something to it. Yeah.
I do because as Multiverse of Madness told us, dreams are alternate experiences, alternate realities. And I dream some weird shit sometimes, and I'm like, the only way, and then also I don't know if it's like the same as deja vu or something, but it's like if I dream something and then a year later something's happening and I pause what I'm doing, I'm like, yo, I've seen this before. Like, this is what do you call that? You know what I mean? Like
Clairvoyance.
it's like, yeah, but I mean it may not be exactly the
Mm.
same, but it's like this I know this happened. Like, or I've seen this. So yeah.
My man. Um, I I have more dreams than not, where I'm seeing myself do things. Like, it's a common occurrence in my dreams where I'm seeing myself do things. And then, like, what's really weird is sometimes in my dreams I have deja vu in the dream. Like, where I'm in mid dream and it's almost like it's happened before, or I can't explain it. So I totally believe in astral projections. I one of the questions I put here, I'm just going through the quote, but do I believe that there is a different version of Bryan somewhere, and maybe we're interacting in your dreams? Yeah, sure. Um, because I also I'm obsessed with time travel, so and I believe I believe that that there's a world where there's a Bryan that liked whatever the heck my wife handed me here. That's I don't know if it's leftover coffee or whatever. It was so hot when she brought it, and I told her I didn't want it, but I took a sip of it and it was just god awful.
I thought it was craft beer or something.
That's what I thought when she first handed me that it was hot. I thought it was a stout or something, but then I remembered that we have no beer in the house, and then my wife would make that. Um, I don't know what
Kombucha.
that is. Anyway, so do you guys believe in mental telepathy, being able to read minds? That there are people that can read minds.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is intuitiveness in that way. I don't know if it's going to be like Professor X style reading minds, but like being able to sense and have an idea of what someone's thinking or feeling. It might not be completely clear, but I think there's something to it. You know.
Do you believe people can read minds, Finch?
I think there's a equation or something being done. That's the one I don't. Because you see these videos online where they're like, oh, like I can guess what you're thinking, and then they're like, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then boom, it's like they got it. But it's like, well, you just followed an equation. You know what I mean? But then there's that dude that did the Mentalist like on the NFL Network and stuff, and I don't know. So I don't know. I don't know.
This is one that I don't believe. I don't believe there are people that can read minds. I think it goes down to an algorithm. Them like Finch said, like they're throwing an algorithm, like because anytime you watch one of these videos, it's always like, I want you to think of a number, and then I want you to add 13. I want you to divide by the year you were born. Like it's all equation is out with
Yeah.
Finch there. So I'm with you. I don't think that can happen. Do you believe that people have ESP, like a sixth sense, like they can sense things that other people can't?
Yeah. That kind of ties into my rent like mine. I mean that's like intuitivism. Like yeah, I mean I think you can. We all have a sense of like danger or fence, like extrasensorial. Like I think I think that gets really into some heavy spiritual discussions. But I think that one
This
I
could
can
be
get
leading
behind.
to a future podcast. That could be what I'm getting
Dope.
here. Just getting feelers out of you guys.
I believe in that one to an extent. Yes. Just like Tyler said, like more of a religious thing, maybe, or even you see all these videos of dads saving their kids at the last second from getting hurt or something like that when they may not even be paying attention. They might be over here doing something and then just like grab their kid and then a car comes. You know what I mean? Like where does that? Where does that come from? Like it's like Spidey sense.
Have
Like
you boys? I love that you said that. Have you boys seen the pilot of the Incredible Hulk show from the '70s with Ferg now?
like the show itself,
Not
pilot.
Like the
not
like
that
the
I can
show, yeah,
remember.
the pilot of the show.
Yeah,
It was
what
like a movie that was
not that I can remember enough detail.
okay.
It's been too
Yeah,
long.
I've
So
seen it, but I can't remember.
so what they introduced in that, and they have and Al Ewing used a little bit in his Immortal Hulk, which I will always talk about because how much I loved it. So in that pilot, creating that version of the Hulk, they introduced the idea that basically, so in that story, Bruce Banner had a wife, and they got in a car accident, and he couldn't save her as the car turned over, and he couldn't flip it back over. It caught on fire. She died, and it haunts him. So he found these people across the United States or whatever that in times of extreme stress or adrenaline or anger or whatever, that they were able to gain enormous strength. So he interviews all these people with this female scientist partner of his, and there's a story of like a dude where someone was in danger in a fire, and he like kicked this door down, and this door was like straight steel, no way you could open it, and he kicked it down. And then there was a story of like a kid that's survived, or a mother like they interview different people, but then they get to this woman with her son, and it's the same scenario as him and his wife. Like the tire blew in the car, it caught fire, and the mom was able to save the kid, but he couldn't save his wife. So he's going crazy. Like, what was the common denominator? And he finds out that it was gamma rays. That on that point where they were, that there was heightened gamma rays on the earth that day or at that time. So that's what makes him expose himself to gamma rays in that chair to get that extra strength. It's fantastic. It's just so well written. Yeah, I love it. But but anyway, so he believes that what the heck was I getting at? That gamma rays can cause abilities. So there is a study still going on in science that gamma rays are responsible for people to have like sixth sense and abilities and stuff like that. And they put it into comics too. Um, I think I just had an opportunity to talk about the Hulk, and then I just went with it, and it totally had nothing to do with what we were talking about.
Hey, Hulk is always welcome, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But isn't that similar to like what's that show, Stan Lee's Superman or
Yes.
whatever, or
Yep.
X-Men, his X-Men or something? The one
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
he goes around interviewing like, or it was like a game I don't know, but he had people with real abilities. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. So real quick, do you believe that people can take a picture of a ghost? And spirit photography.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of energy. And I mean, film picks up different layers and stuff. So, I mean, yeah,
But anybody that has taken a picture of his ghost, do you believe that was actually a ghost or a trick?
I don't know. I have to look at it case by case.
true. Um, I don't believe anything now. Like if
But say like,
go back 12 years, 15 years, someone shows me pictures like, dude, this was caught on camera, like it's a ghost. I might be look at it like, oh shit. But anybody shows me anything now, I'm like, nah, bro, like that ain't real, you know? So,
I mean, my thing is I believe stuff, but I'm not just gonna like believe everything. Like you have to prove it to me. You know what I'm saying? Like I have the open mind to believe it. I think there is, I want to believe or whatever, but you have to prove to me. So like, Finch just said like I looking at technology, I think film works different, that it picks up things. But with our digital technology, I'm more skeptical because we're, photoshopping and creating things all the
Yep.
time. Uh,
AI's changing the game.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Do you believe that telekinesis is real? That people can bend the spoon?
that one I'm a little bit more like you got to prove it to me. But is it possible? Maybe, but I'm less on that one. Like,
Maybe not bend spoons, but bend bullets, you know?
there is no spoon,
There
bro.
is no spoon. That's the
Once
answer I wanted to hear.
once
There's no
once
spoon.
once you
No one can
accept
bend it.
that there is no spoon, but it's more like an extension of yourself.
Damn,
It's
that's the
really quite
Matrix
easy.
or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was
Yeah,
going
I don't
into Wanted with bending bullets.
bending the bullets, curving the bullet. Well,
Every time I get in an elevator, I whisper, "There is no spoon," and like nobody gets it, but it's cool.
Magneto can curve bullets. That's where I believe. Um, yeah, I don't believe in telekinesis. Do you guys believe in full trance mediums, like people that people can actually talk to the dead, and the dead can talk through them?
I don't know. I want to say yes, but it's a little bit more like I need proof. Like I think it is possible. I think when you dive into a lot of religious cultures and beliefs and what people are capable, like if we went down that rabbit hole of discussion, but I don't think it's something simple. I don't think it's something easy. I don't think it's something anyone can just do. But I think there is a level of communication that can be achieved. But
Ooh, Finch, what do you think?
Well, I believe in like angels and demons and stuff like that. So I do believe in like possession and people speaking like through that. And maybe people who practice the the black arts, witchcraft, demonic, like I don't know. I do think yes, but kind of like he said, it's certain degrees and stuff that I would tend to stay away from. So
I think I'm with you, Finch. Like I believe in demonic possession big time. So when this happens and someone talks through them, it's either totally fake or it's definitely not the person that they wanted. It is some entity that you do not want. And that usually happens to white people, and they're usually Catholic, and they're usually Irish Catholic. Uh, look it up. It's true. um, do you guys believe in the Loch Ness Monster? That the Loch Ness Monster exists?
Heck yeah.
Yes.
We will be doing an episode in a couple weeks or a couple months on the Loch Ness Monster. So I'm doing research on that. And finally, do you guys believe in of Atlantis? Meaning there's many theories. There's theories that Atlantis is the Bermuda Triangle. So if you want to believe that theory, let me know. But more so, the most popular theory is that Atlantis was a continent on its own, and that continent has sunk into the ocean, and it's somewhere out there.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about why, but I won't go down that spiral. But like, yeah, I have my reasons.
Yeah, I believe a Waffle House in Georgia sank. Just kidding. Sorry.
I love it.
No,
I love it.
no, I believe in Atlantis. I have heard the Bermuda Triangle theory, and that one has sparked my interest a lot. But also the just like the old city that was in sand and sank because of earthquakes or global warming or whatever. Continents moving, all that stuff. So yeah.
I love it. Um, all right. So final words, guys, and then so final wrapping this up. All right, Tyler, who's your favorite Ghostbuster?
It honestly, like, I like all four of the original. I think I kind of side more with in Ray's realm because it reminds a little bit more of me. But I think they're all four so perfectly done that I like all four of them. So, but just because of the similarities, I think I would go with Ray. But I love them all.
Cool. Raise your answer. Least favorite Ghostbuster.
Um, the Ghostbuster played by can't even think of her name.
Annie Plot.
Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig.
Hmm. All right, and your favorite Ghostbuster moment.
The first time the proton pack turned on.
Oh, good answer.
Like, I'll say this today because we were watching Afterlife in 4K, and when I got to the part where they turned on, and made the kids go pure silent because that sound effect is so amplified in that movie. So on my home theater speakers, when it was like, feel it, and I was like, oh, that's a beautiful sound. It's like one of the greatest sound effects up there, like in history, like the lightsaber, the proton pack. Um, yeah.
Your least favorite moment.
Oh, dang. That's probably the harder question. You know what? I'm just gonna say the whole Ghost BJ scene because it's so out of tone and just like it's the one thing like I said, I would just cut. Everything else I can work with. So.
My man. And now rank the Ghostbuster films.
You know, someone else asked me about this earlier. The first one's always gonna be the first one, and I think it's gonna stay there. Um, I have a battle, I think, between Afterlife and 2 for the second place because there is a lot of value in Afterlife, I think, and it's an emotional resident film. And I think you could go emotionally from the first film to the second film or to Afterlife. So I think I'm gonna go 1 Afterlife, 2 Frozen Empire. 2016 is definitely my bottom. But once again, I have to watch Frozen Empire again. I haven't only watched it
Yeah,
once. I
forever.
think upon more viewings, it might beat 2. I like 2. There's great moments in 2, but as looking at it as a whole, I feel like there's some oddities we could discuss on a different day or something. Just me and you, Brian, for fun. But yeah, I think 1 Afterlife, 2 Frozen Empire, definitely 2016. Answer the Call is last.
Fair. All right, Finch. Favorite Ghostbuster. I do not hear you, sir.
Hello? Can you hear me?
No, there he is. There he is. Yep. What's up? There you are, buddy.
All right.
Yep.
Is a
Favorite
toss up.
Ghostbuster, sir.
It's a toss up between Winston and Tully. So there's because, like I said, for at the
Nice.
beginning, I always thought Rick Moranis was a Ghostbuster in the first one, but he wasn't until the second one. And Ernie Hudson, just being the only black member for the longest, just resonated. At representation
I,
matters.
I loved Winston. Like I said, I always loved him in and when I was a kid too. I was like in the films. He's got that cool everyman. Even when he swagger walks, like kind of in, just like he has this coolness about him when he walks in for the job interview. You're like, yeah, I like this guy.
I love it. Your least favorite Ghostbuster?
Probably Lucky.
Ooh. You feel she has no purpose? That's probably why.
Pretty much. He didn't do shit. She was kind of annoying. She was better in Madam Web. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
My man.
Yeah, it's deep.
Favorite Ghostbuster moment?
Ah, man, that's a tough one. Probably This Man Has No Dick.
Yeah.
It's
That was
just
not the answer
how
I expected.
just the way he says it, he's like, it's true. This man has no dick. Like it's
And as a kid, that was my favorite line because you knew it was like, oh, that's bad, but like you knew what it meant, and you're like, yep, I love it.
Least favorite moment?
in the 2016 when Kate McKinnon goes with those guns. It's just fucking stupid, man.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Wow. Oh, okay. And you ranking your films or ranking them?
Mine's probably close to Tyler's. I didn't know, so I literally had to do it right now. The original, number one. Afterlife, because of that Harold Ramis tribute at the end when he shows up. That would have been my number one, but the joke just always gets number one. So, uh, Ghostbusters 2 because it's canon and it's the original crew, and then Frozen Empire because we get a lot of the original crew, and then 2016.
Excellent answer. My favorite Ghostbuster is it's Ray. Um, I I think a lot like Tyler, and that's why we're friends. Um, I think that part of me like part of me likes how Peter quips, but like I think that if I was a Ghostbuster, I probably would be that guy with the bookstore that just would have all that knowledge and stuff. Um, and me doing that. That sounds awesome. That sounds like a dream. Like I would love that. Uh, yeah. Least favorite Ghostbuster is definitely Kristen Wiig and Ghostbusters 2016. She's just awful. None of her jokes land. She really serves no purpose. She adds nothing. Like while watching it again, you could take her out of that movie, and the movie could still work. Even though she saves her friend at the end from the pit of hell or whatever, someone else could have done that. Like, and you're trying to give me this emotional moments of them being like sisters or whatever. But through the whole movie, you just kind of like had them back together, but no like tension really. It's just you failed. Leslie Jones has a purpose in that movie. Like, she knows New York. But it used to my least favorite used to be Leslie because they write Leslie very stereotypical black woman, which I hate that crap because it devalues black people, and I hate that. and but Leslie, like going through watching the movie again a few days ago, Leslie, her character does add to the movie, but Kristen Wiig, yeah, it doesn't. So least favorite, my favorite Ghostbuster moment. There's so many because it's my the '84 one's my favorite movie. But actually, it's probably going to be actually from Ghostbusters 2 because that's where I lost my Ghostbusters virginity, was seeing 2 first. And it's the moment where they fire up the proton packs and go, "Do
Ray.
Egon." I love that moment. I thought
I
Finch was
was
gonna
waiting on
I thought
Finch
Finch
to.
was gonna go
I
Egon,
know.
you
I
know?
was like, there's 3 of us. There's 3 parts. I was like, you did Doe. I got Ray. I was like,
Kill
Finch is
me,
gonna be like
Smalls.
Egon.
And
No.
also and 2 where where Peter's like, "And you don't want us exposing ourselves."
I almost texted that to you earlier. Like just that out of nowhere. Like
I but the greatest line in cinema is actually from it's not from Ghostbusters, it's from the Cable Guy. You guys strike while the Iron Master. I can't even say it. So funny thing, listeners, just adding this in here. Um, Tyler never saw the movie The Cable Guy, and we're watching it, and I'm partially deaf, so everything has to have subtitles. And we're watching a scene where where Cable Guy throws a party for Matthew Broderick's character, and the subtitles were not matching up what was really said in the movie.
they were truncating the dialogue. Like they were throughout the movie we were watching, they're changing words to make the captions smaller.
Yes,
So we get to this scene and they mix 2 lines of dialogue into one caption.
and it says, "You got to strike while the iron masturbates."
And that was Brian and I laughed. That was one of the hardest laughs we have ever had. And we had to freeze frame it and take a picture of it because I mean, we lost it.
So good. So yeah, you don't want to expose yourself. My least favorite Ghostbuster moment, that is tough. It um probably in the 2016 movie when Chris Hemsworth starts making everybody dance. Like that was just god awful. And ranking the films, I think ranking the films, I think I gotta go Ghostbusters 1, Afterlife 2, and then Frozen Empire, and then 2016 female.
So we all have the exact same
Yep,
ranking.
pretty much. Yeah, that's what it seemed like. I almost put 2 as number 2, but I feel like Afterlife just had a better story a little bit. Um, and 2 just gets skimmed over too much. There's so many loose ends of 2 they still haven't addressed, especially Oscar. So
And I mean, that goes back to the history of the production on that film. Even watching that film, there's little things as you're watching it that I'm like, where is this going to go? What could have been done here? That's confusing. It's an enjoyable film, but what you said, there's similar beats that get repeated in that movie when you said about like New York, like once the movie ends again where New York's cheering, and I feel like we didn't get had to find a way to like put them back down. They couldn't actually have them being out there ghost busting.
Do we like the cheering like with the credits? Did we miss that in the newest one?
No,
I kind
in
of
the new
did.
one,
I kind of wanted it.
I honestly in the theater I thought we were going to start that like the credits start to come up when they're cheering and then it stops and then we got the rest of the scene like and then it would have kicked to the credits like kind of honoring the original with that but then no that's not how we're going to end our movie kind of thing.
But then we did get the for Ivan at the end.
Yeah, we did.
Ha-
Just like we got the for Harold
Yeah.
in the last
And that's
one,
how
like,
that one ended. Yeah, up in the sky.
yep.
So yeah.
have you guys noticed in every single Ghostbusters movie they reference Cannibal Girls? And every
Yes.
single one of them, and that's one of Ivan Reitman's like first movies.
Yeah.
Like
Wait, that's a real movie?
that's a real
'Cause
movie, buddy.
Yeah.
I was when he was holding it up, I was like, "What?"
Yeah, it's one of Ivan Reitman's first movies.
I'm gonna have to look for that one.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to talk about it on the episode. Absolutely. So yeah. So thank you guys very much for joining me. It seemed like we had a blast watching Ghostbusters again and definitely talking about it. I'm so glad to have you guys. Thank you. And so
Thank you for having me.
well, always happy to have you, Finch. I mean, you're top tier, man. You're top tier. Uh, you know, and Tyler, Mr. Reliable. I appreciate you showing up here, buddy.
I try.
We love you, man. So next week We're talking about Godzilla and King Kong, the bromance. So Steve will be back if as long as he sees Godzilla and Kong. We might have to split that into 2 episodes. It depends if he gets to get out and see the new recent movie. But we're gonna be talking about the original Godzilla versus Kong movie. We're gonna talk about Toho's chance at a King Kong movie by itself with King Kong Escapes, which is pretty weird, and King Kong faces a Robo Kong. And we're gonna delve into the MonsterVerse and talk about the movies there with Godzilla and Kong Skull Island, and it's gonna be a massive podcast. We're probably gonna split into separate parts there, but we're excited about it. So, and then I'm gonna take a little break because I'm entering April and it's my anniversary, and I'm gonna be on vacation for a little bit, take a little rest, and then we'll be shifting focus a little bit on my second podcast, which is Bryan the Guys, where we talk about nostalgia topics and mainly superheroes. And Finch and I are going to delve very deep into X-Men 97, the history of the X-Men movies, all leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine. Uh, we're very excited about it.
Maybe an Invincible review.
Maybe
Season 2
Invincible
is back,
season 2
baby.
review in there. We have to do that, but Finch and I are going to dive deep into that, and then Tyler is going to share his definite. Tyler's been working on a long time. He's been chopping at the bit of trying to make sense of the timelines of these X-Men movies. So Tyler is definitely going to be joining us again as we delve into some X-Men movies and try to make sense of them. So
Yeah, I can't wait to explain this to you. Like I'm so pumped.
I've been trying to put something together myself, but I know that you're in real depth. Like you got this chart out, you got the dry erase board. You know, you're like Charlie Day and Always Sunny. Like, who's Pepe
I did.
Sylvia?
And I ran it by a friend of mine, and he was like, "Yeah, that I think that works."
I love it. I'm excited.
So
I'm excited.
I look forward to seeing this too.
I want to get another whiteboard so I can draw it out for you guys real big.
Put the string and stuff.
Exactly. I can't wait. Watch. I still haven't watched Dark Phoenix again, but and I will. I might watch all the X-Men movies over again because I watched them being all excited. But I think my favorite X-Men movie has changed as I watch
Ooh.
stuff, and just thinking of things as a whole. So that'll be interesting to talk about. I'm excited about that. And if you have not checked out X-Men 97 yet, you are missing out on something truly special. It's just mwah. So Finch and I are probably going to talk about it. Probably maybe the halfway point. We'll do an episode talking about the halfway point.
They're only doing like 8 episodes or something, like, right?
I
It's
think
not
10, but they already dropped 2.
okay.
But
I think it is 8. They might be
maybe
10.
you guys are right. Maybe it is 8. But we'll talk probably at the
Because we-
halfway point. We'll do a little talk of what's happened so far because it's a lot. It's really great. So if you like this podcast and you want more of Gravely Amusing, or you want to check out Bryan the Guys, my superhero podcast, you can find me or find us at Gravely Amusing on X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can find Bryan the Guys at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If you want to discuss anything in the world or other stuff, you can find me on X, TikTok, Threads, Insta, and in some place in Ohio as Man Shout of Steel. And Tyler, you host a very important and special DC Comics podcast. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, I host this little podcast called The Krypton Report where we talk about Superman and basically all things DC. So
It is a great podcast. He co-hosts that with probably the most masculine man on this face of the earth, James Cole. We love you, James. Shout out to you, James. Um, they, I mean, I learned so much for these guys. I mean, they know more about Superman than probably Jerae knows. so, their podcasts. Where can they find you? Like
everywhere. Like I have social media platforms that I post on that I'm never really on, but if it's anywhere you get podcasts or social media, we're there.
So make sure you check out the Krypton Report as they get ready for Superman Legacy. You got Superman Low season 4 is coming out eventually. They're definitely going to cover that, and if anything going on with Superman, that is the place to go. So, Finch, do you want anybody to find you?
Nah, I'm a recluse, bro.
Nah, he's like Miles Morales and Spider-Man. He does his own thing.
He's like David Pumpkins. He's his own thing.
Hashtag inside joke.
Any questions?
Any questions? Yeah. Who are you? So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. Had a blast. I love talking with you guys, and thank you, listeners. So I hope this podcast thrilled you. I hope it shocked you, and if nothing else, I hope it left you gravely amused.